to another episode of Spare Time. I am your host, Carlos, and this is brought to you by Umpqua Survival. Today I have a very special guest. I know I say that every week, but this one really is special. Today, my guest is my dad, Juan Ortegon, or as some people know him, Sergeant O. How's it going, Dad?
Hey, not too bad. Glad to be here.
Had to explain a little bit what a podcast even is to Dad, but I thought it was important to get him on the show, and he's got years of experience in a million different things, and a lot of my guests don't probably know anything about you, Dad, so if you want to give yourself a little introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. Once again, my name is Juan Ortegon, and also known as Sergeant O by friends and people that I've worked with. I lived in Oregon. I arrived in Oregon in April 1967 as a field laborer following the crops from Texas, and fell in love with the state, except at that time when we arrived there was snow on the ground, and we had never seen cold or snow. And so from that point on, our whole life was different, and have been here ever since, and I really enjoy Oregon, and I've never wanted to leave, so I'm stuck here till I'm dead and gone.
Well, I'm glad. So, you were born in Texas, right, Dad?
Yeah, I was born in a town named Pharr, Texas, Pharr.
Yeah. And what was that like? Tell me a little bit about, I mean, you had a pretty different childhood.
Well,
so.
I was a field laborer, born a field laborer. My father, mom, and family were all field laborers. My dad, I didn't know him. I was 3 years old when he got deported, believe it or not. He came in through a program called Bracero Program, which during the World War II era, they had contracts with Mexico and China to bring in labor to take care of the labor because the males were all in war at war. They had been drafted and such. So my father was one of those, and so when he came over, fell in love with my mom, got married and all that good stuff. Well, there might be happy endings and stories, but not when you're from Mexico. They got deported somewhere along the line when I was 3 years old. Never saw him, never met him. But that did not change our way of life. We were field laborers. We didn't speak English. We didn't understand English. And so we just went with what we were given, which was field, activity. We worked cotton, bell peppers, pick cotton, bell peppers, onions. I was very good at it, I believe, because by the time I was 9 years old, I was already a member of a work crew. And at the time, that was a big move. That was a big thing to accomplish, considering the fact that without a male figure at home, Mom had to do all the work herself, plus take care of us kids and take care of all the, the washing, laundry, and all that good stuff. So when I was able to get in, I learned to work. My mom was my trainer, my mentor, I would say. And that is the driving force behind everything I've ever done, with my mom's ability to guide and train and show me. And so I have been very fortunate in the fact that when I arrived to Oregon, I was already contracted to come work here, but my mom didn't allow me to come to Oregon by myself. She says, "You ain't going without us." And they all jumped in the bandwagon, and we arrived in Oregon. And so from that point on, I've lived my life as a field laborer until I ended up in the Marine Corps, which was by accident, by the way. It wasn't intentional. We went out we were working in Jefferson, Oregon, and we just finished, or outside of Jefferson, I'm not really sure where, but we finished broccoli season, and so a friend of mine and I decided to go on a celebration, per se, on the weekend, and got drunk. And we ended up on the sidewalk holding on to this meter post and suffering from a hangover or bad juice, one or the other. And then this gentleman came up to us, the prettiest blue pants with a red stripe, and said to us, "You boys need a cup of coffee?" "Oh, yeah, you bet." "Well, come on in, I'll buy you a cup of coffee." He took us into the restaurant and says, "How about a hamburger?" "Oh, yeah, we'll take it." And then he started talking about work. He says, you guys working? I said, no, we just got done with broccoli, man. We're off for a few weeks. Well, I can offer you a job. Really? And room and board, clothing, health, 3 meals a day. Oh, and if you sign up today, I'll even fly you in an airplane to where you're going to start training. Oh, well, and we pay you every month. Hey, that sounds like a good plan to me. And then he asked me if I had any questions. Well, the only question I had was whether I would be back in time for strawberries. The strawberries at the time with one of my better crops. I could make $65 to $70 a day picking strawberries. Now, you have to recall, as a field laborer, you have to learn how to do work real quick if you want to make a living at it. As a field laborer, if you don't work, you don't eat, period. So he said, yeah, I'll be back in time for strawberries. But he forgot to tell me what year. 5 years later, I came back to the strawberry fields. Now, the Marine Corps adventure was a whole different story. If you want me to go with that, I'll go with that.
You told me a story about how tough Grandma was when you were a kid. How you watched your sister be born.
Oh, well, that was a story of picking cotton. It was the middle of the cotton season, and Mom had been sick a few weeks prior to that, and I had noticed she was slowing down, and I was taking that as a sign that I was getting faster. Never once dawned on me that Mom was slowing down. No, I thought my ego was telling me I was getting a better worker, because the object of a field labor is to become a seasonal worker, a seasoned, mature worker, an elder per se. And that meant the fastest, the sharpest, the quickest worker. And I wanted to be one of those. Well, as time went by, Mom got sicker and sicker and slower. And one day we were picking cotton, and I had gotten ahead of my mom on the row picking cotton. And all of a sudden I heard my mom sigh or yell or something, and she fell. So I started to undo my sack and run towards Mom, and the ladies ran towards my mom and told me to get back to picking cotton, stay out of this. Okay. I just follow what they tell me, and I kept picking cotton. All of a sudden, after a while, I heard this scream, and all of a sudden I heard a baby crying. I says, what the heck? And Mom stands up, and she's holding a baby. And she says, this is your sister. And she wrapped her around her chest, and then she put her sack back on and started picking cotton again. And from that point on, I became afraid to fall in the fields. I might wake up coming up with another relative. I mean, that's how my sister was born. It scared me to death. I said, my God, don't ever fall in the fields. And that's basically how my sister was born. And it once again, a demonstration of what my mom could do. Yeah, having a baby amazing. Right out of the field, strap the baby around her chest, and kept moving. And that was the experience that taught me about being able to keep moving. I can tell you another experience about another situation. We're picking cantaloupes. And during cantaloupe season, usually it rains. You usually have a lot of rain. And in Texas, it doesn't rain that often. When it does, it decides to come down hard. Now, cantaloupe, when it's ripe, it floats, believe it or not. And so we're out there picking cantaloupe. And I was still a kid, 9, maybe 10, 8, 9. I don't know how old I was. But I couldn't walk in the fields too well. I get sucked up in by the mud, pulled in. Every time I take a step, I draw back down in the mud. And there was a gentleman, I fell down face first in the mud, and I was suffocating. And I was dying. And I couldn't get up. And all of a sudden, I felt this force behind me, pulled me out of the mud, shook me up, and stood me up and laughed at me and smiled and said, you're going to be okay. It was an old gentleman, and his name was Don Ismael. He was one of the older workers, and I really liked him. He was very polite, very respectful man. And he told me to be careful how I work, to be careful of the mud. And a few rows later, we're working, I don't know how old, maybe a couple of hours later, we're working, and he fell into the mud. Mr. Don Ismael fell. And some men ran up to him and picked him up. They did something, stood over him, then they picked him up, took him back to the truck, and laid him down in the back of the truck, and then covered up with canvas. Don Ismael passed away that day. And I had never seen death before. But once again, our life was marked with the simple things. He passed away, they put him in the back of the truck, covered him up with a canvas, and we kept working till the end of the shift. And during our trip back home, everybody was crying because they knew him, and this is how it ended for us. This is what we were looking forward to. Work until you can't work no more. And so from the experiences of life from my sister to the death of Don Ismael, in between there is where I learned to get a balance of what was taking place as a field laborer. And do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Well, yeah, at the time, that's all I knew. When you didn't speak the language, you had to do with what you did and accept life on life terms. And so until we came to Oregon, it became essential that I learned to speak English because people were taking advantage of us. We arrived at a labor camp in Jefferson, Oregon. The labor camp was one of the largest in the area, about 500 families in this big labor camp.
What was the living conditions like?
Yeah, well, the conditions were it was 8 by 10 knotty pine shack with bunk beds made out of wood, of course, no mattresses, 3 on each side on the inside, and a wood stove for cooking, and a light bulb. Don't ask me what the light bulb was supposed to do because, anyway, there was a light bulb and a wood stove. Now, we arrived from Texas without pots and pans, without cooking utensils, without blankets, without nothing. We were still wearing shorts and T-shirts from Texas. We didn't know how to deal with any of this.
How'd you guys get here from Texas?
Oh, a friend, Mom met a fella that had a car. Don't ask me. I have no idea who this guy was, but she met this guy, and he had a car, and she convinced him to bring us to Oregon. I mean, I don't know anything about how to drive. At the time, I didn't know anything about driving or where we were going, so we got lost somewhere between Texas and Oregon. We got lost in New Mexico somewhere because I thought for sure I had seen pictures somewhere in school about the Capitol, D.C., Washington, D.C., and in the middle of the night I saw this Capitol building in the middle of the road, and I thought we were in Washington, D.C., and it was some Capitol building in New Mexico. I have no idea where this was, but anyway, we got lost 2 or 3 times. It took us 3.5 weeks to get to Oregon. And we suffered sandstorms, windstorms, I mean, you name it, storms, we got into it. The good thing about all this stuff was that Mom had packed away 3 bottles of Bacardi rum. So we all got a little sip of that stuff the whole drive to keep us warm and also passed out. But it put us out like a lamp because we didn't have enough money to eat. And all we had was that to drink, and we couldn't stay cool enough at the time, but we made it. This fella stayed with us, and one day I realized he was gone. Don't ask me what happened to him, but I remember a picture where I saw his car all beat up and tore up sitting on bricks. I have no idea what happened to the fella, but I do know that his car was sitting there. so I don't know which way it went, but Oregon was an interesting state when we arrived because they didn't want us as Mexican laborer. They wanted us to work, but they didn't want us to mingle with the public. They didn't want us to hang around public places. We couldn't buy groceries anywhere. We couldn't go to any stores. They wouldn't let us in any restaurants. The only store that was available was a contract they had that the owner of the ranch had with Payless in Albany. Payless was closed on Sundays except for us. We would go in and do our purchasing at Payless. That was the only store we were allowed in. We didn't get a chance to go to restaurants or anything because, like I said, they didn't want us hang around.
That was the 60s, right? So
yeah.
So there was still lots of segregation.
Oh yeah, there was still
that
that still discussion of segregation type thing. Yeah, we didn't consider, believe it or not, we didn't consider it anything different because that's exactly how we were raised in Texas.
Yeah,
in Texas, we very rarely rode anywhere. But when Mom decided to go, we had to go somewhere, and Mom had to take a bus, a public bus. We got on the bus, and the last 3 rows on the bus, there's a line that would run from side to side to separate the blacks from the rest of the population. The bus would be empty, but except for the last 3 rows for blacks only, and we were supposed to go back there too. So we had to push it, crunch it.
Anyone of color.
Anybody of color, basically, but we didn't consider it wrong, see? And at the bus depot in Edinburgh, Texas, there was a sign that said, whites only in bathrooms, for the bathroom. There was a bathroom indoors that said whites only. And the bathroom outside, like an outhouse, excuse me, was a sign that said blacks only. And a piece of paper on the window at the gas station said, we didn't know what it said, somebody read it to us, Mexicans across the street. Well, across the street, there was an empty lot with weeds and shrubs and stuff and toilet paper flying all over the place. And that's where we had to go. But we did not consider that bad. That's the way it is. I mean, we didn't own anything. We didn't run anything. We didn't understand anything. So whatever people told us to do, we did. So Oregon was no different. So when Oregon said you can't do this, you can't do that, well, but we did learn, though, is how to get around some of this stuff because they wouldn't allow us to speak Spanish in school. See, I would go to school when I wasn't working in the fields. But we discovered that they would expel us for 3 days or suspend us for 3 days if we spoke Spanish in school. So we all asked to go to the bathroom in Spanish on Wednesday so we'd have the rest of the week off to go bum around. and the teacher would get mad because you all suspended, you kick you out of school. Well, we were all happy campers because then we go picking strawberry, go do some work somewhere. So we started getting around this stuff. So that's about as far as I can tell you unless you want some more information on that.
Nice. So you were saying that a recruiter basically bought you lunch and started talking to you about joining the Marines. How, I've never heard you tell me how you ended up in the Marines.
It wasn't the best approach, but it worked.
Yeah. So what did you do in the Marines? Where'd you go? What did you have to do?
First, I went and told Mom about it.
She probably wasn't happy.
Mom was jumping up and down, excited and appreciative and happy, and started hugging me. And then she sat me down and said, look, the government has taken care of us. And she was reminded me about when we were young. In Texas, the epidemic of polio kicked in. And so did a few other ugly diseases like, I can't remember some. There were some really nasty diseases kicked out besides polio. And so the government decided to, and at the same time, field work started to die down because of the droughts. So the government started putting government food boxes together. Mm-hmm. And the way they did it to attract us to go get it, even though we didn't speak English, was they told us we had to go to this one place to get our shots. And if we get through there, on the other side, we pick up our food basket. Mom said, well, let's go. Because we were starving to death. I mean, I'll tell you what, I was eating cheese and beans and rice, but then the government started giving us more stuff. So we went there and started getting shots and more food. And then people didn't like certain foods. We took everything we could. We weren't going to argue with anybody. And because of that, my mom, when I told her about joining the Marines, she said, well, we owe the government a debt. And she said, and your job is to pay them back. You're going to go in, sign up, and you're going to do the best you can, and don't mess it up because we owe them a lot for having taken care of us. Okay, Mom. So for some reason, I don't know how I did it, but I passed the test. I passed the test, the written test, and And the rest of it's pretty straightforward. I got in and got there, arrived, and fell off the bus like everybody else, and people started screaming and yelling at you, and I wasn't too bad. To me, I was pretty happy because I was used to my grandfather yelling and he beating the bejeebies out of me every time I turned around. So the Marine Corps is really no big deal. And so, believe it or not, of all the strangest things, I ended up taking a test to determine what kind of career field I was going to go in. And my field ended up being a laundry machine operator. That was my job. And I said, hey, I was pretty happy with that because I could use that job when I got out. I could get a job. So they sent me to school and to learn how to operate laundry machines, I guess. Well, because they sent me to an Army base, there was only 9 Marines on the base. And guess who pulled duty every weekend? The Marines. Yeah. Guard duty every weekend. Well, it was one of these nights where there was somebody was breaking into a building or something. And I ran across somebody breaking into a building, and I couldn't tell how many they were, but I guess ingenuity kicked in because I put my rifle inside a big metal lipstick dumpster and I let the bolt go. It sounded like an echo, a big weapon loading up, and I yelled, halt, like I'm going to shoot, and they stopped, and I arrested 6 people breaking into a small weapons armory. And from there, I was given a promotion, and then they sent me to base, and I ended up being assigned to El Toro Marine Corps Air Base. Once again, Dame Fortune changes the course of your life, whether you're aware of it or not. I arrived at El Toro Marine Corps Air Base, and I reported to the base laundry, because I was really honestly looking forward to this job because I was considering that as an investment to my life. When I got out, I'd have a really good, down-to-earth job. Instead, I showed up at the laundry, and the first sergeant or whoever was in charge says, you take your gear and your orders and report to the provost marshal. I didn't know what that was, so I found out the provost marshal was a military police headquarters. So I went over there. Well, apparently back in those days, 90-day wonders is what we were called, was how they assigned military police on the base. Every 3 months, somebody was pulled out of somewhere and given the job of military police. And that's how I ended up being a military policeman. 4 years later, my 90 days were up. From there, as a military policeman, I became involved with several activities that taught me law enforcement, criminal investigation. I ended up being assigned presidential duty. I guarded President Nixon, General Haig, which is chief of staff at the time, Kissinger, and a few other bigwigs that were bigwigs back then. Whenever they came to San Clemente, the White House West, I think they call it, we were responsible for security and such. It was a job I'd never expected. I mean, I still wanted to have been. I wanted to work in the doggone laundry so bad. I swear. But they got me. I ended up being a military policeman.
And the Marines is where you really learned how to speak English?
What's that?
And the Marines is where you really learned how to speak English?
Oh, trust me, I learned English real fast. I used to joke about when people were shooting at you, just yell, pato, pato. What the hell? That's Spanish for duck, man. But yeah, I learned English real quick because of the radio procedures, the code system, the law, the rules, regulations. That was one thing I did pick up real quick, because once I learned to read English and understand English, I fell in love with reading. I enjoy reading like people enjoy ice cream cones, I guess. That I love reading. And the communication skills that develop, people would make fun of my language in the beginning. They say, you better learn how to speak English. Now they tell me, you speak better English than most. I went to college. I took courses in English. I graduated several military academies in my career field, in my career of the military, and all because somebody told me I couldn't do something. When I heard the word stupid, I always thought it was bad until I found out the word simply means slow to learn. So I wasn't embarrassed by being called anything. Anytime I didn't know something, I didn't understand something, I wasn't afraid to ask. The first thing you learn in the Marine Corps is be confident in yourself. Learn that you can learn. Be teachable. You become like a field of corn, all ears. And that's basically what happened in the Marine Corps. When I got out of the Marine Corps, my performance was not exceptional. It wasn't more than ordinary. Just real typical duty. I did some crazy things like I had to bring prisoners from overseas. I had to chase prisoners. I had to do investigations on some really terrible things that happened. And I did my job like most Marines do. And the cool thing about it was that I learned techniques and abilities that would come to serve me later on in other things. Of course, as I went out, when I got out of the Marine Corps, the first thing I did was I went back to working in the fields. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know. And they offered me a job when I got out. Oregon State Police offered me a job with the Oregon State Police. But for some reason, I was done with weapons. I just didn't have a need to carry a weapon, fire a weapon. I know how to fire weapons. I thought I was calm, but apparently I lost something somewhere, somehow. There's some things that I had to do that, I cannot disclose anymore, but which just, brings me back to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was here in Oregon that I fell in love with this lady and got married. That happens to be your mom, by the way. And she convinced me to move to Roseburg, Oregon.
How'd you meet Mom?
Well, we met at a club, and that's about all I can tell you. It was a club that, it was a lot of fun, okay? So a few weeks later, she tells me about coming to Roseburg, and I married her. And we came to Roseburg. We went straight to Winston, in fact, and I applied for a job at Roseburg Lumber and started working right off the bat because a veteran, and they gave me a job. Well, once again, I never could think straight or proper like most people. I have to look at different things. I applied for a job with the Forest Service, and I got the job. So I quit Roseburg Lumber. Roseburg Lumber paid very well at the time. I think it was getting paid $11 an hour back in the early 70s. That's a big bucks there. And my father-in-law and brother-in-laws and all the other laws were really upset at my inability to make good decisions for going work for the Forest Service. Well, it just so happens because I joined the Forest Service, I was offered a job at Tokenie Ranger Station as an engineering trainee to learn to become an engineer, and they provided a free housing. Well, I wouldn't pay rent or anything else. I only making $3.50 an hour, but it also included vacation and medical, health for the whole family, all the benefits that come, even though the pay was low. But compared to what I wasn't getting elsewhere, $11 an hour, $3.50 an hour was a good investment. From there, I became an engineer. I became a structural engineer, a materials engineer, and I learned the ropes like everybody else. I learned to do this stuff. And it was because at Tokenie Ranger Station that the senior engineer happened to be a captain and commander of the local unit of the National Guard, Charlie Company 1186. He asked me to come and bring my ID 214, and I ended up joining them. And
because that was just extra money.
Well, Mom didn't know about it. I kept telling her they were paying, that I had to pay to belong. That lasted about 6 months. She found out I was getting paid. It got me in trouble with that one. But yeah, I joined them, and then I became a recruiter. I mean, I'm telling you, I became a recruiter. I went to Klamath Falls. And my career with them started and became really enjoyable. And then somewhere in there, I forget what year it was, the Army Reserve offered me a job to be a trainer for them for the combat arms. So I figured, hey, one temporary, another temporary. Well, I didn't realize in the National Guard, if you're activated, they activate the whole unit. In the Army Reserve, they activate one person. I didn't know they could do that. Well, when I joined the Army Reserve, I ended up being sent to another military installation. I got involved with that activity. And my career field just went sky high. I ended up with a total of 25 years, plus the Marine Corps. So I ended up with a 30-year military career. And it has all been, I guess, an investment to repay what Mom had told me I had to repay. I've always considered it a debt that she told me I owed. And so, and that's about it. I can tell you. I don't know what else I can tell you about my adventures in the military.
Well, I'm sure there's lots.
Oh, yeah.
You ended up doing a lot of different things in the military, not just being a recruiter, though.
Yeah.
I know you retired as a first sergeant, which was a big goal for you, which was awesome. And I know for a while, the last several years that you were in, the military had actually stopped having blinders to people's personal life, and you were able to help the military create programs for drug and alcohol counseling. And
yeah, I was involved with a program called Counter Drug Support Program in the state of Oregon to help initiate drug demand reduction within the schools, within the state, especially our youth. I was involved with several activities to promote the difficult side of drug abuse, and also for parents to recognize when the drug culture had entered into the family. Most families did not recognize that drug influence was already hindering the family and affecting the children. So with my activity and part of my programs was involved with to go to the schools and promote these activities. I also conducted a lot of workshops in Spanish. Because I was a bilingual, I was able to conduct a lot of workshops in Spanish for the families on drug demand reduction, which is another one you don't hear about. You talk about drug reduction, but you don't hear about it in other languages besides English. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate that I could speak the language, and I was able to conduct a lot of workshops throughout the state of Oregon. And I was also asked to speak in several conferences in other states to deliver the message or deliver the information that we are providing in the state of Oregon. Since I retired, I don't know if it's still active or not. I don't even know if they're still involved with it or not. But it was a great, great effort in respect to trying to stem the use of drugs. Of course, it's wishful thinking because this activity, believe it or not, the war on drugs has been active since Nixon was president.
Yeah.
And look at where we're gone. We're worse now than we ever were before because they learned to do things differently.
Well, the drugs are a lot worse now.
Yeah, everybody became a manufacturer of this, that, or the other, or creating different things that I never even heard of. And so how do you reduce it if people are still asking for this stuff?
Yeah.
And so, in a way, I'm grateful that I did my part, and I also was involved with several state committees under the Governor Kishauber. I was a member of, I was a commissioner for the Commission on Children and Families for the state, a commissioner on Commission for Hispanic Affairs. I was also the chair for the 2000 census. So I was involved with quite a few other activities besides. Yeah.
Yeah, you've gotten into a lot of different stuff. So when you were in the military, you went on annual training and did lots of different things. Where are some of the places that you got to visit? What were some of your favorites? And
where was what?
Some of the places that you got to visit when you were in the military. What were some of your favorite spots? And
Japan was my favorite.
Yeah.
Hokkaido, Japan, Shirobitsu, in fact. Beautiful country, except it was 60 degrees below zero. The only place where I see wooden outhouses with electric heaters. I also like Panama. Panama was absolutely gorgeous. I went to Honduras, Nicaragua, Guam, and a few other countries that are kind of off the wall there. But you join the military if you want to learn geography. That's how you remember this stuff. But of all the countries, I think the most beautiful place I ever saw that I fell in love with was Panama. Mm-hmm. It was just, to me, it was just a tropical area that just stood out. It's beautiful. And Kuna Indians and I were able to communicate because of my language skills. I was able to put together the language, so I was able to communicate with the Kuna Indians. Now, sadly, I was invited to a feast with the Kuna Indians at their tribal site, and while I was there, I got pulled over by the military police, wanted to arrest me because eating sea turtle, which is considered an endangered species. And I said, well, I didn't cook it. I didn't know what it was. I was eating it. Well, it doesn't matter. But because of the Kuna Indians, they told him, you can't arrest this man. He was a guest. And that almost became an international incident. I could not believe it. And I was invited to dinner. And so sometimes these policies and stuff get in the way of some real good old-fashioned common sense, you know. What are you going to arrest somebody for eating a bowl of soup? Come on. But it happens. And so I was fortunate that the only time I ever went to Vietnam was to pick up prisoners. I spent time in Vietnam, but not in respect to on-site duty. I was on-site duty at the headquarters military police because of my work with transporting prisoners and finding some that got lost. So it amazes me how you can lose people in the middle of everything. And I also went to other countries where I was assigned duties for military police activities. And so some of the things that we did basically following up or catching up with somebody else who did something or started something. My job was to finish off and bring it back home if I could. And the big thing, though, that we did was we were into tracking illegal drugs, even in the Marine Corps. Even in the Marine Corps, we're having track illegal drug trafficking because of Marines. Huh. Some senior Marines were arrested. That's a sad part. I mean, so whenever we talk about drugs and stuff, nothing surprises me anymore. I mean, I was dealing with it back then. So I remember when we were stationed at El Toro Marine Corps Air Base, which is located there by Anaheim, California, which is next to Disneyland. One night with the snipers opened up on the base. And it was an organization that hates law enforcement military called the Weatherman Organization. And here I am trying to hit the deck as hard as I can, pushing Mallory, my partner, off to one side, yelling and screaming, man, we're going to get shot by Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse, man. What is wrong with this picture? There's some guy shooting at the base, and we opened up fire, and the helicopters come up, and the object was that while they were shooting at the main gate, they were diverting attack into the ammo depot, which is where the F-15 fighters were flying out of there. So they had ammo depots on the base, which is right next to Disneyland, you know, and that's why they closed down the base, I think. It's been so many years. But anyway, those kind of situations that completely threw you off. But once again, everything that ever took place wasn't new. Mm-hmm. It's just continues to become more and more of a pain. I mean, now we're dealing with things that are so detrimental. Just some of this stuff is so bad and we're losing people left and right now because of this stuff. So, but otherwise than that, I'm pretty fortunate. I ended up with two sons that are pretty healthy, and of course we lost one because of illness. But you know, overall, all these grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I'm eternally grateful for the lives that are being given here. And great opportunities to serve the state, serve our country as best I can. I wasn't, I always tell people I got my ribbon for showing up on time.
Oh, yeah. And, my whole life, all I remember is the military, you being in the military, and, we were lucky not to have to move too much, but we did move around a little bit. And
just a little bit. 18 times to be exact.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
a
lot of people have to move from different countries all the time.
I know.
We just moved around Oregon, so.
Yeah, I tried to buy houses, Klamath Falls, Hillsboro, Cornelius, where else? It's a Bend, Albany. I mean, I was buying houses everywhere I turn around.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing is, I don't know, you've been sober for 45 years? So.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know that's a big part of your life. And I know I grew up around it, so I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much you're able to talk about that at all, but.
Ordinarily, I don't.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah. But, so.
Wait a minute.
You met Mom.
I can say it because it's not on film. There's no picture. Nobody sees my picture. Okay. Yeah, I sobered up in November 1979.
Yeah.
And it changed my whole life, my whole perspective in life. That really helped me more than anything else because I started seeing things that I had never seen before. I understood and accepted things better than most. And, I never lived my life to please anyone. I own my most difficult judge has always been myself. The measure of my abilities has always been my work or the result of my work, nothing more. I never suffered from approval either. I never needed to be approved. And I learned because I needed to learn, then I learned because I wanted to learn. That's why today I can sit down and read books like it's anything. I love to tell stories. I remember telling you guys stories in order to get a moral lesson out of it, and you guys would look at me like, oh my God, here comes a story. I'll tell you right now, I remember a story that you wrote. I remember it's just like yesterday. You came home from school and you were crying, and Mom runs up to give you hugs and all this stuff. Me, I'm saying, okay, what in the world are we crying about? And so the next day I said, what's wrong? Well, I don't want to go to school. Well, how come? Well, because they'll make fun of me. What happened? And, well, I had an accident. I asked the teacher to let me go to the bathroom. They wouldn't let me go, and so I had an accident, and now everybody will know and they'll laugh at me. I said, well, that's a pretty sad story, all right. And then I told you the story of my experience. I said, well, when I was a kid, and you go rolling your eyes, oh, here it comes. I was raised with a 3-holer outhouse, 2 adults and 1 little kid's at hole. And for some strange reason, one day I was sitting in that little hole, and I decided my very first goal in life that was one day I will sit on the big hole. Well, the day came when I climbed up there and I sat in a big hole and nothing happened. I was set on a big hole and I said, yes. I threw my legs and my arms up and I fell in. And I heard it was a splot. And I started sinking and the thing was alive or something. I don't know what was going on, but oh my God, I was in bad shape. So I started yelling for help, but I'm whispering because I don't want no one to hear me. But finally I realized if I don't yell, I'm not going to make it out of here alive. So I started screaming at the top of my lungs. Help me, somebody. And my grandfather, of all people, was the one that heard me. Of all people, that's not the one I want. Grandfather comes over, and he says, what in the world? He started laughing at me. He reaches down, pulls me up, and pulls me up, holding me away from him, puts me in the middle of the yard and starts screaming for my mom to come out. My mom comes running out thinking I got injured or hurt, and she stops and looks at me, and she starts laughing. Everybody's laughing. So they turn the water on and the hose to wash me down, and they're laughing because by now the neighbors got 3 daughters, and they're all watching me, and they're washing me and cleaning me up. Now, I said to you at this point, do you think I was embarrassed? Ashamed? Do you think I want to keep living? No, I didn't want to do any of that stuff. That's the same kid that ran for governor in Oregon in 1986. If I hadn't gotten up, I'd still be there. So the lesson was, we get up no matter what. And that's basically why I told you that story, and you just kind of looked at me and you went to school. And you've never looked back.
Yep.
Never do we have to embarrass. It don't matter what happens, man. Hey, shake ourselves up and keep moving. Like I always tell the story about the guy with the blue pants and the red stripes. They always say, well, how do you... Because that stood out. Blue pants and a red stripe. To me, it stood out. It has nothing to do with nothing except I'd never seen that before. And so that was the lesson. That was just one of the things that your brother came up to me when you were getting married. I don't know if you remember this. You were getting married, and your brother had his girlfriend with him. And he snuck up to me and said, Dad, I got a question for you. Yeah? You remember when I was young and I kind of stole this candy bar? Yeah? And you told me that if I stole the candy bar again, you'd chop off my hand with the axe? Yeah? You wouldn't have cut off my hand, would you, Dad? Did you steal any more candy bars? No, then I wouldn't have to, now would I? And see, once again, it was just a story I told you guys, but you guys hung on to those stories because that was the only way we remember stuff.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really more than just, sometimes it's easier to tell a story, work it in there till it'll come out better, and that's it, you know. We don't have to, we're not racing against anybody. We accomplish, we don't accomplish, we're successful, we're not successful, it doesn't matter. We keep moving, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's I remember a million little stories.
Yeah. And you always roll your eyes. Oh, my God. You and your brother, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, God, Dad.
Oh, the running for governor, man. I remember that. That was craziness. In hindsight, I think that was probably a bad idea.
You remember when we were all, your mom had that surgery and she would build up in gas and we stopped on the middle of the road and got out and rolled on the highway. We were rolling on the highway for her and we were saying, here comes the truck, Mom.
Yeah, I remember those days. What made you decide that you were going to run for governor back then?
The price of food. At the time, it was really ridiculous. The pricing of food, it was asinine, and they were trying to increase more. And so, for some reason, whoever was running, I know it was Goldsmith, Norma Paulus, Ed Fadley, and Betty Freehoff were the people that were prime candidates. They're all politicians, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped in the bandwagon and ran. And the way I started was I pulled a stunt. I walked from Washington Square Mall to the Capitol. And I had a friend of mine drive to make sure I don't get run over. And I remember the saying that I created was, Oregon needs a hand up, not a hand out, to get through stuff. Well, I made my walk, and then I went campaigning as best I could because I was broke anyway. So I went in my car and tried camp. I went and spoke a few places, But one of my favorite places was La Grande, Oregon. And when I spoke there, Goldsmith was speaking, and then the other people spoke. And then when they asked me to talk, I said, well, you have a choice between a defrocked mayor, an old senator, and a late school administrator who can't spell, or you can choose me to get it done. And Goldsmith got off the floor mad and almost knocked me off the floor. But, that was the only reason I did it, was because I didn't believe that we should sit still and take these prices. This is ridiculous. Some of the things are ridiculous. Nowadays, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
We're beyond hope now. I mean, everybody votes in. If I get elected, I've always loved that joke about, do all fairy tales end happily ever after? No, some begin with, if I'm elected. If I'm elected. Yeah, that's exactly right, because we still get the same thing for the same thing, Nothing changes. Now, I better stop right there. I don't want to get too excitable.
Yeah, all I remember out of that, I remember us being like road tripping around for your campaign a little bit. And I remember after your campaign, we had that giant copy machine forever.
Yeah.
And you got in some, I think you got in some trouble with work because you decided to run for governor too.
Yeah, they apparently somebody took me to task. I was the Secretary of State, and some voting commissioner or somebody decided to take me to court because of running. And they finally, apparently, they took me to court. Apparently, there was a decision made, and then I got the letter saying, you're okay, nothing, you weren't charged or anything. Well, I didn't even know I was being taken to court, But people tried to convince somebody that it wasn't right for me to do that until I informed them that as an America free citizen, you can do anything you want to. And in fact, some of the people that were Goldsmith and Norman Paulus, those are the people that were trying to incite a law, create a law saying you can't run if you're doing this or doing that. And I said, wait a minute, you can't do that. I mean, American citizen has a right to run for anything. You know, and I think that people forget that, And that's one thing I did learn real quick is I learned the law, the rules, the regulations. You might know how to play ball, but if you know all the rules, you can't win.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you learn about English. I learned real quick. You learn to read what's proper to learn from it. And I will always be an advocate for learning, always, because without it, I'd still be picking beans. I remember that one guy at field one day told me, I was working, picking beans somewhere, and it was some guy from college. He couldn't pick beans. His life depended on it. He was so slow. I told him, why don't you just go home, man? And just, I was 800 pounds already that day. I had picked up 800 pounds. This guy couldn't pick up. He hadn't even gotten to 100 yet. And then he says, he said something stupid to me. He says, how old are you? I said, I'm 17. So if you were to go to college, how many years will you go for? 4, I guess. So how old would you be then? 21. So if you don't go to college and keep picking beans for 4 years, how old will you be? 21. So 4 years from now, you either be picking beans or be graduating from college. And I looked at me like, what kind of stupid thing is that to say to a guy like me? But I never forgot. See, there's always somebody teaching me something somewhere. And that's, if I pay attention,
Yeah. There's lots of lessons out there. So, when I was growing up, at the time, you're a kid, you don't realize what's going on around you. But looking back, I've realized since I've gotten older how much you and Mom were always hustling to provide for us, to make sure that we had a roof over our head and stuff. I remember I always knew that we didn't have a lot. I knew we weren't rich or anything, but we were better off than some people. I mean, we always had, like I said, we always had a roof over our head.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes we had different cars or whatnot and all that stuff. But I remember going to get food boxes with Mom, and she could make things stretch like nobody else.
Right.
And I never realized, like, you worked multiple jobs and did multiple things to make sure that we had enough money going on. But I never, when you're a kid, you don't pay attention to any of that stuff. All you know is you want stuff and you're not getting it. And
well, the thing I always remember was I was going to college. I was working. I was taking a night course. I was going to college, and I also was pulling a job as a security guard. And I was trying to keep up all those jobs at the same time. And then your mom would say, we need to get him something for Christmas. Oh, boy. I said, okay. So you guys were still, I mean, you could barely hold your hands yet. But what I did was I got a magazine, and I cut up pictures and glued them in a Christmas card. And I handed them to you for Christmas. And for Christmas, you open up this card and said, this is what you would have gotten if I had the money, Merry Christmas. and they gave you a sock, man. I got that. But you never forgot that because you said, man, that's pretty sad. We're getting pictures now for Christmas. Yeah, I remember you saying something like that to your brother, like, hey, just give me something to eat, man. I don't care.
I remember when we were kids and we were really into Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And we had some Star Wars action figures, but we really wanted, like, the Death Star and stuff like the big play sets. And you wanted to give us something, but you couldn't afford that. So you built us a Star Wars play set.
Oh, my God. That was the saddest thing I've ever seen.
That was the first time I realized that you were not a very good carpenter.
I was not. I got you guys wanted a fourth thing to stand your Star Wars, man, and I didn't know how to give you one, but I seen this somewhere. I cut up 4 railroad ties for feet, and they put a board on top of it and covered it up with 2-inch board all the way around it. And then I realized I couldn't move it. It was so heavy. I said, now what are you going to do with it? I said, yeah, I couldn't. No, I never was a carpenter or a mechanic or any of that stuff. No.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, we played with it in the garage for a while.
Yeah, it did the job, but nobody stole it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, it was fun growing up like that, though, actually. I think it built a lot of character, made us appreciate what we did have. And because we had friends that had lots of money. Like, we would go to their houses and play with their stuff. We just made do, though. I remember you and I were talking, this was only, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago we were talking, and I was pouring a glass of milk at your house, and I shook the milk before I poured it out, and you started busting up laughing, and I was like, what's so funny? And you asked me why I was shaking the milk, and I said, I don't know, I always shake the milk. And then you explained to me that the whole reason I was shaking the milk was because when we were growing up, Mom would take, when the gallon of milk got half empty, she'd fill it back up with powdered milk.
Oh.
And so we had to shake the milk to keep it all together.
So this way you never know. And you guys argued about milk. You didn't want that powdered stuff. You wanted the real milk. So you always got a glass of real milk. But you didn't realize the powdered milk had disappeared already.
Yeah.
And it was because we had to do something to make it. It's like a cereal. I remember you guys arguing over cereal. Oh, my God. I want the red ones. I want the blue ones. I want the cereal. So finally I got mad. I mixed them all up, and that really got throw you off. I've been mixing cereal ever since. And nobody seems to worry about which.
I hated that worse than anything. Mom had those big Tupperware things, and you would just pour like 4 different kinds of cereal in them and mix it all together, and it ruined every cereal.
Be happy, man. I always say that. Be happy.
Yeah, those are crazy times though. But yeah, it's cool thinking back to how much you guys did really have to work to make things so we weren't struggling super hard. And
I think if you remember, when we came back from Portland, we were living up in Portland, came back to Roseburg, we were in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a job. I had just quit my job over something. I don't know what it was. And I couldn't find a house, but I was able to talk to some friends from the fellowship, and I got somebody to rent me their house. And he got this house. It was cold, but it was a house. And it was getting close to Christmas. We couldn't afford a tree. But it just so happened somebody dropped the tree off a truck and got run over. I picked up this beat-up tree, took it home, and you looked at it like, what? It looked like somebody ran over a possum, and I'm trying to inflate it to make it look real. Well, we hung up this dead tree, had this dead tree at the house with things dangling all over it. It was probably the best Christmas we ever had.
I remember that. That house had the people that owned the house had a boat sitting there.
Yeah.
And we used to play in that boat all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was not very long after you did the governor thing, wasn't it?
No, right after, yeah. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with this. No, yeah, it was, because that was in 76, 77. I ran for governor in 86.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole different time. But I'll tell you, the thing that surprises me still today is the fact that you guys made a lot of friends. I met a lot of your friends from school. I've met them today. They're all adults. They're all married, got children and family. The beautiful thing about it is that I got to know them all. A lot of them come up to me and say hello. All of them come in. And that's the thing about you guys is I got to know all these young people too, and they're all grown up now and all part of the community. And so, no, I think overall we've done pretty good for our lives, You've done great here. You've done great with this business and everything else. Another example of what you can do, what you can accomplish. And it didn't come from me. It's something that you discovered and learned for yourself by watching others do it. And that's basically the key to everything is watch others do something, accomplish something. It don't matter who it is, And I've always said that about you guys. You guys here, I come home, and when my mom was, your grandma was living with, and you come back, and I come home. Well, grandma's upset. Wait, why is she upset? I don't know. When she started rattling about something, I can't understand. I talked to mom. Well, you took the tortilla right after she made it, and she wasn't. Well, I didn't do it. Well, now we're fighting over hot tortillas now. Gee, many Christmas. And but that was the key. Is through the years now, all that has changed. A lot of people pretty much accepting of everybody. I don't see anybody, anything else now. Everybody's pretty open about everything. So I think overall we've done good here. We've lived here a long time. I know I have. I've been here quite a few years.
I remember when Grandma lived with us, and she barely spoke 10 words of English.
Yeah.
And we didn't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So she just seemed like the maddest person in the world. Like she was always yelling at us. And but I remember when she was, and I don't know how we even did it because she really didn't speak English, but she was showing us how to make tortillas.
Yeah.
And she yelled at me because I tried to flip the tortilla with a fork.
Yeah.
And so she threw the fork away and grabbed my hand and just slammed my hand on top of the griddle.
Yeah.
And moved it around real fast. And I got the point, but I thought she was trying to burn my hand off. But she was basically saying, you just use your hand and move fast.
Yeah.
But I remember she was just yelling at me the whole time. Like the whole experience was like burned into my brain because it was so traumatic.
Well, that's a thing that I taught Mariah and Z and Marcos and Carla and let's see, who else? A few other people how to make tortillas. People didn't realize I still know how to make them. Of course, you know how to make them, man. The first rule of growing up is learn to cook unless you expect somebody to cook for you, and you learn to cook efficiently and good enough so that The first rule my grandfather taught us about cooking: if you cook something and people show up, add water. If you cook something that's really good and you want leftovers, add salt. So nobody will eat it, see? I mean, grandfather used to cook possum because we couldn't afford meat. The only thing we could afford was a chicken, which is an old man across the street where we lived raised chickens, but he didn't sell his chickens. He sold the eggs. He'd only get rid of his old, decrepit, dried out chickens. And those are the ones we got. And trust me, if you haven't had bad chicken, we hang around here long enough, you'll find out what a bad chicken is, man. It's so ugly. Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, those were the ways we were brought up, that always appreciate what you had, be grateful for what you had, and share what you have. I mean, always somebody. I remember we used to have these big Thanksgiving dinners.
We always had some random stranger.
We'd always invite people, yeah. And Marty, my brother, would come by and say, "Who are all these people, man?" He says, and I said, "How are you going to feed all these people?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. It was a small turkey to begin with. We'd end up with extra turkey. And how'd you end up with it? I don't know. I just did." And then he says, "Where'd all these cakes and pies come?" "I don't know, man." And he'd say, "Why are you feeding all these people?" "Well, I don't know. Maybe they needed to eat. I don't." But you know what? My life has not been boring. It has not been boring at all.
I remember when I was in junior high, and you brought, I think it must have been from the program or whatever, you brought a guy home to stay a couple days with us.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he had just got out of prison.
Yeah.
And he'd been there so long that he didn't even know what a damn microwave oven was.
Right. 25 years. He had been released for a crime he committed when he was 17, couldn't read or write, and they sentenced him to life in prison. He learned read and write, the AA program of all things. And he read every book, studied all the literature. And when they released him from Arkansas, they released him in Oregon. They dropped him off in Portland, Oregon. Now, how in the world they expect a man who knows absolutely he's been in prison all his life, and he's floating through here looking for a place to stay. So he came and stayed with us. And he was an inspiration. He was in awe when he saw a lawn, or he could go to the store and buy a candy bar. He was just overwhelmed.
I know he boiled about 10 glasses of water in the microwave because he could not figure out how the hell the microwave worked.
Yeah, he was amazing.
It was magic.
And yet, we were fortunate enough to share with people. That was the key. And I was very fortunate that your mom allowed it, because a lot of husbands and wives were afraid for their children. Your mom was not afraid. She was willing to accept when I tell her this is okay, that's okay. And I remember there's one fella, I gave him a pair of jeans and some boots that I had and stuff, and took off. And a few months later, I get this letter telling me that the boots were in Carolina. What boots? He was in Carolina. He gave them to somebody who moved up to Carolina. So I said, "Your boots are in Carolina." I guess he thought maybe I was going to recollect them or something. But, we were fortunate in that respect. Another great gift was the ability to share with people, even when we were in bad shape. I mean,
I'll tell you what, though. I hated it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember like a million trips to the coast that we never made it to the coast because every time we went anywhere, if you'd see somebody pulled over on the side of the road, broke down or whatever, and you had to stop for every damn person. and it always turned into we'd never make it where we were going because we'd spend the whole day helping someone else and then end up just going home.
Well, if you recall correctly, I took you guys to Reno.
Yeah.
Went to Reno, and there was the experience that your brother taught me a lesson. He had 5 wallets for 5 days. He separated his money into 5 days, and I'd never seen that. That worked out pretty slick for him because he had money I didn't. But the thing that surprised was we couldn't leave because something rattled in my car, and I looked at it and a bolt was missing from the starter. And I don't know how the bolt fell off, but the bolt fell off, and the starter would just rattle and shake. I had no bolts. I had nothing. It was Sunday. So I walked downtown, down around the area of Reno and the town and the city and see if I'd find anybody who might be able to help me. And I walked around, and once again, I found a mechanic. He was working on Sunday, and I said I needed a bolt. He looked and couldn't find one. So I walked around, and I was really worried, because I didn't know how we're going to get home. And believe it or not, walking back to the hotel, and I'm waiting to cross the street, and I look down, and there's a bolt in the street. I pick it up. And I said, no, that can't be the same bolt. I went back to the hotel, and bolt fit perfectly on the starter. Tightened that starter up, started the car up, and went home. Now, that's what I always call something. It always takes care of us. We're never so badly off that we couldn't find hope somewhere. And that's what makes this possible, is never give up on hope, never give up on the possibility tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah.
And if I live, I've lived long enough to know that I've lived a good life. Man, I've had a hell of a good life. And so I ain't going to complain. I could, but I won't do any good, because I tell them, if I complain, I got to give somebody else 5 minutes to complain, and mine is bad. I hate to see what yours sounds like.
Yeah, I try not to also.
Yeah.
So that trip, when we went to Reno when we were kids, we stayed at Circus.
Yeah.
I remember. And we thought it was amazing. We thought it was like Wonderland back then.
Yeah.
And I remember that was back when all the machines paid actual coins instead of.
Yeah.
And I remember we were walking through the casino, and somebody was hitting a jackpot, and there was quarters going everywhere. And whoever it was that was winning handed me and little brother both a little bucket of quarters.
Yeah.
And we thought we were rich. But I remember that. But when I first took this business over, I went to SHOT Show for the first time it was in Vegas, but I remembered our trip to Circus in Reno when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, Circus will be great. And it was cheap.
Yeah.
Circus is not the same as it was back then.
That's right.
It was the most disgusting, rundown place I've ever been. And I warned everybody about it.
Yeah. It's overwhelming now. It's just beyond me. Yeah. But we went to Vegas and Reno and stuff, and all the places we've been to. And when we were traveling in our RV, we were traveling up and down all over the place. Went to Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and stuff. And really, there wasn't anyone in particular that we thought was better than the other. Well, the one we really thought was a great place to stop was in the town of, I forget the name of the town, in Oklahoma, outside of Oklahoma City. The Windmark Casino. It's a mile square. This thing is so doggone big. It's the biggest casino.
It's an Indian casino, obviously.
I don't know. It's a mega casino. Man, this thing is mega. It's like putting Seven Feathers, Spirit Mountain, Mill, and all of them together in one location. I mean, this thing is mega size. We stopped there for 2 days, and I don't think we even made it to a quarter of the place. Is so big. Just massive. But other than that, we've never really had that particular excitement about it, because we've been to them enough times now to know, what RV parks to stay in. I know now which ones I want to stay. We stayed at the RV park outside of Circus. Never again will I do that. We stay. You can't sleep. There's so much noise because you're surrounded by all the casinos and people screaming and yelling and drinking and partying. I mean, you're not going to sleep there. And so, but it was enjoyable to travel all over. We have done a lot of traveling and really have enjoyed it. And That's
what got you guys um what got you interested in doing the RV life?
well, it started out with a simple thing was that her mom, Carla's mom, lived in Great Falls, Montana, and she wasn't doing well, and she needed help with her farm. So we just said, that's it. Let's take off. Took off.
And that was right after you had retired.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so we took off because, well, the reason I took off was because when I retired, I went to work for the state. And I wanted a job where I could lay back, drink coffee, and do absolutely nothing, okay?
Yeah.
So I got a job as a receptionist, okay? I mean, you can't get into trouble with being a receptionist. Now, except for the fact that you got a lot of experience, being a receptionist isn't going to cut it because the next thing I know, a lot of customers coming in didn't speak English. So I had to translate. They didn't know how to fill out the forms, so I had to show them how to deal with the forms. Then they wanted me to put together the cases so I did all the casework. Then I ended up being a trainer for the employees because they didn't know they didn't have a trainer. Then I had to show them how to apply for jobs because they couldn't advance unless they applied, but they were working so they couldn't apply, so I had to show them how to fill out application. Next thing I know, a full-bore case manager, trainer, and by this time I had read the rules and regulations. That was something else. So I had a full caseload. Well, then the big mucky-muck from the area showed up and said, you can't do that. This guy is not being paid to be at that level. That's a level 5. He's a level 3. So they took all my cases away. They took everything I was doing, all my training, everything I was doing. That did it. I'm bored. I'm gone. I'm retired. I don't have to work. I quit. So we got in the RV, took off to Montana. And I think the biggest fun we had with Montana was when we left Montana in the middle of winter, because in 2007, I had to have surgery on my knee, and we were in Great Falls, Montana. I had to cross over the top and came through a town called Lincoln, Montana, which is where they found that Unabomber.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, at the time, there was 6 feet of snow and ice on that road. And I'm driving an RV across the mountain. Came up over the top, and at the end of you couldn't see the road, but you hoped to find the road, and you came going. And I've never been a difficult driver. If I pay attention, I drive safely. And when I got to the end, it comes out at Missoula, Montana. There was a sign that blocked the road that said road closed. They didn't have one on the other end. They had one on this end. But we've had a lot of fun with RVing. A lot of fun. If you want to do something with your life after you retire, that's one of the things to do. Just take off and go somewhere. And you don't have to worry about how to pay for stuff, because if you get some kind of pension or something, you get once a month and you pull somewhere, stay for 30 days till you get paid and keep going. 2 or 3 months. If that's what we did. 2 or 3 months here, month there. People would say, well, how long you been here? Well, right now at the RV park, we've been there since December of last year. What? Yeah. I mean, what do you want us to do? Move? Where are we going, But no, we do this full time. We like it. We enjoy it, And so.
And it's allowed you to go see family that you hadn't seen for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I saw my cousins that I hadn't seen in 50 years in Texas.
Yeah.
And they used to live in Mexico, but they became citizens. And so they're all living in Refugio, Texas.
I think a bunch of them I'm friends with on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because they just started friend requesting me out of the blue when you visited. Yeah. And I was like,
those
okay.
are all cousins. Those are all cousins. And I discovered where they were at. And we were lost. Basically, when we left Texas, we just disconnected from all the family, because we were visit Mexico on a regular basis to see our family, aunts and uncles. And so when we left, there was no letter writing because Mom didn't write. And in fact, Mom never learned to read or write.
Yeah.
And so
she could figure out the TV guide a little bit, I remember.
Oh, she'd get a kick out of it. She'd use a few choice words in English, but that was about it. But she never was interested because she was brought up that way by her dad. My grandfather was very hard. Didn't want her to go past third grade. Didn't want her to read and write. Didn't want her to learn anything. So he wouldn't let her go to school. And so I had to learn, and I had to take care of Mom. That's the reason why I took it by responsibility. Nobody gave it to me. I just accepted it, you know. As the eldest of the family, it was my responsibility. That's the reason why I did what I did. And so Mom, I always treated her well because, you know, she went through a lot to make sure that we were okay. And for a person who didn't read or write, she did a doggone good job of taking care of us, I'll tell you.
She was too ornery to...
Yeah.
And I also remember that she had she had one of those tapestries in her living room with Jesus and Elvis
and John F. Kennedy.
And John, yeah, right. They were all together.
Yeah, they were all three of them, man. She says, "You pray to one, pray to the other." And she used to say every time I get in trouble that she get mad at me. She says, "I'm going to have to turn the saints upside down." Oh my God! As soon as she said that, I went in trouble. So, yeah, I was there at, we were crossing the bridge over to Mexico. We're on our way to see family. When we started walking across the bridge, the federal troops from Mexico threw a barrier on the Mexican border, and then behind us, the Marines put a barrier on the American border and told us the American citizens go back to the U.S. and the Mexicans go back to the other side. We weren't allowed to cross. And so, okay, well, we didn't know what was going on. We got back, and people were crying, men, women, everybody was crying. Drivers, soldiers, everybody was crying. What the hell? And that's when Mom found out Kennedy had just been assassinated.
Oh.
And that's what all it was about. They closed the borders instantly. And I've never seen an impact of that nature. I've never ever seen anything like it in my life where everybody was crying. And I didn't know why until later on through the years I realized what they were doing, you know, what the response was. And apparently Kennedy was well liked. You know? So, but yeah, that was another experience. You know?
Yeah. So, when you were RVing, you guys have kind of quit. I mean, you're still in your RV, but you don't do as much traveling as you did.
Right.
Where were some of the other cool experiences and stuff you had doing that?
Well, a few, the crazy ones were we were at Diamond Lake RV Park. I didn't even know they had one until we got there, arrived there, and we're there 3 or 4 days or a week and stuff. And then about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they came and woke us up and told us to get up and leave because the fires were a mile away. There was a fire from Crater Lake had jumped over and heading towards Diamond. And I tell you what, that fire was coming. And we was moving fast. So I had to throw my rig in the back, get ready, and take off. Of course, I blew out a transmission getting out of there, and that was an adventure. The other one that I thought was interesting was we were driving to, I forget, Spokane, somewhere out there, putting right along, about 65, 70 miles an hour. And I don't know whether you realize this or not, we got this mega-sized windshields on an RV, big windshield. And we saw this cloud over these cars, looked like, I don't know, dark black smoke. I don't know exactly how to describe it. Just this big black cloud of something over these cars. And it kept moving towards us. What in the world? All of a sudden, this grasshoppers hit us. It was like somebody opened up a hose with water, except it was grasshoppers. The whole thing on the windshield was covered. And then they started coming through the vents.
Holy smoke.
I mean, this thing was... And I couldn't even drive. I couldn't use the wiper. Just wiped them all over the place. And finally, I slowed down because all of a sudden I realized everybody else is slowing down, man, because there's bugs everywhere. Finally, I found the exit to the rest area. And there's everybody scraping bugs. I said, my goodness, I don't know. And there was a sad one. I mean, that was really... And then another one was when we left Cambridge, Idaho, from Idaho to Montana to cross over to Missoula. There's a place called Lolo Pass. And if you can imagine a snow cone, upside down snow cone, and you're going to climb up, all the way up and up and up. And this thing, there was a river, a massive river right next to me when I started. I see this little line of the river when I'm getting to the top of this thing. And it just kept going and going. I says, my goodness, I didn't know if my RV was going to make it. And finally got to the top, and it just like slows for a little bit and zips over. And then here it comes, rolling downhill, going like Mach 1. Well, the good thing is that I have a diesel. And the diesel has a jake brake.
Yeah.
And it caught that and just slowed it down, man. If it hadn't been for that, I'd have been doing Mach 1 coming down. And at that speed, no. No. Now, if you want to try something adventurous, try a 40-foot RV with a pickup behind it, towing it, and you head into Oatman, Arizona. Oatman, Arizona is the town where they have the bed races. It's also a town, it's an old mining town that's full of donkeys everywhere. You got donkeys walking the street, walking down you got them all over the place. But it's also a really narrow little town, very narrow. Well, I saw the sign that said no vehicle over 40 feet. Hey, easy peasy. Mine's 39.6, right? But I didn't measure the truck or anything behind me. So I went on through there, and as I'm going through, every wall-to-wall people go see the bedroom races. Well, the bed races, but they won't let us in because we can't find a place to park. And it's really narrow and hard, so they escorting us through town and get us to the other side. Finally get to the other side, and I kept going because you're out of town. And then I discovered why you don't want to ever take that road with anything bigger than a bus, or bigger than a car. The turns are 15 to 10 mile an hour turns, and it's all downhill. And they're blind turns, cut into the rock. So I'm coming down on the other side, hitting my horn. I got a train horn on my RV. And as I go around the turn, there's cars sliding up on the hill, up on the mountain, getting out of the way because they hear this train coming. I'm beeping this horn because it's just, I'm driving down this thing and I finally come out at Route 66. So I never do that road again. Okay. But some of the things that take place, we left Oklahoma City. We're on the way to New Mexico, to the UFO site. I forget the name of that site.
Area 51?
Yeah, but I forget the name of the town.
Oh.
Anyway, we left the town of Oklahoma City. It was storm clouds and stuff. While I was driving on the highway, we find out that there's a tornado behind us. And that the tornado is moving pretty fast, so we got to find a way to get off the road. So we head down to that town in Oklahoma, in New York, in New Mexico, Rockwell. That was it, Rockwell.
Oh, gotcha.
And we finally get to Rockwell and pull in and find out that the tornado had hit the RV park where we had left a few hours earlier and destroyed the RV park, and RVs scattered all over the place. Well, so we were fortunate once again that we did good on that one. But other than that, it's been pretty mellow. Yeah. Well, except for the fire.
When you were driving to the coast?
I forgot about the fire. Okay, we came back to Roseburg and decided to go see my mother-in-law in Great Falls, Montana. So this time I took Marissa and Katie with us, our two granddaughters, to show them Montana. Okay, we're on our way to Montana. They're putting that along. We got over as far as Kennewick, Washington. And we're going back, got past Kennewick, Washington on our way to Spokane for that route. And Yeah, dang on, the RV is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And I was, good Lord. And I keep looking behind me, and all I see is clouds, dark clouds. Yeah, I can't believe it. There's no clouds in front of me, but I see clouds behind me. And finally, I touched the doghouse where the engine is, and I thought, damn, I'll burn my arm, my hand. So I pull over and popped it open, and I had to kick the family out because there's flames coming out of the engine. The engine's on fire. And I tell Mom and the granddaughters, get out, quick, quick. So they get out into the hot sun, barefoot, no shoes. Tell them to get out. You'd think common sense, get out. No, barefoot. But that's not as bad as me because I got a wet rag. I don't have a fire extinguisher. I got a wet rag. I'm trying to put the flame out. And this fellow touches me in the shoulder. We got it, sir. We'll take care of it. Go ahead, get out of the RV. What the hell is this? A guy, a fireman. And there's another fireman. Where did you guys come from? Oh, come on out, sir. We'll take care of it. And there's search and rescue. And there's deputy sheriff. And the other fire department. Where did all these people come from? I said, well, we got a call that there was an RV on fire heading down the road. God, good thing you did, man. Otherwise, you wouldn't help me. Your RV's been on fire for a while. They've been reporting it since wherever they said flames coming. What? They reported this RV butting right along on fire. Really Christmas. And so I said, so they put out the fire and they deadlined my RV. I couldn't drive it anymore. And so Canal, Washington, we pulled in there. They parked us there. And I called the guy that I was buying the RV from, who happens to be in Post Falls, Idaho. I told him what happened. By golly, he sent another RV over for us to drive. Got the whole family taken care of. And we kept on our trip. The insurance paid off that RV, paid him off, but we didn't get anything out of it. But it didn't matter. The point was, we got another RV to keep going on our trip and back. But that was the one that scared me to death, that fire. That's the one that really should have had more. The potential for that one was absolutely out of this, especially with the two granddaughters.
Yeah.
That one scared us to death. So I got fire extinguishers after that, and I got a fire extinguisher in my new one too, because it just scared me to death.
And you've also upgraded quite a bit since then.
Oh yeah, we got a really nice fifth wheel now. Very nice RV, real rig. I mean, we started with a 1974 20-foot that would leak like a sieve when it rained. I put my hand on the wall, it went through the wall. The good thing is when it would freeze, it wouldn't leak because it was all wall of ice inside. The furnace didn't work.
You're living in an igloo.
Yeah, the furnace didn't work, nothing worked. But I bought it for $500, so what can I say? Yeah, it's been a lot of adventures too in that.
That's cool. I'm going to pause this for 1 second. Yeah. All right, we're back. I always take at least one break because my guests expect it now.
At my age, trust me.
Yeah, I always have to go to the bathroom or walk around a little or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the RV life, I've heard you guys have told me that there's a lot of like an RV community.
Yes, it's a whole group of different people. They travel. People who live in RVs full time are a whole different breed of people. They're survivors. They take care of themselves and they help each other. Mm-hmm. There's places like in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where there used to be a place where they have long-term. Some of the RV parks have long-term parking, which is you can stay for 6 months or over. And they call that place Foreclosure Lane because a lot of people lost their homes.
Yeah.
And they got an RV and they're living in them. And I've seen RVs where 6, 7, 8 people live in them, little tiny little things, but that's all they can afford. Others are fortunate that they've traveled million miles on their RVs. I mean, it just depends. People talk to you, they help you, they're real friendly. Everywhere I've been able to meet people from this state, that state, from this part of the country. They tell you where to go, where to visit, who to talk to if you go this way, or who to talk to if you go with, or if you need a favor, go this guy. It's amazes me because you already know this stuff long before you get there. And then the other thing is, I remember I refer to it as a Juan in my RV one time when we were staying at Great Falls, Montana. And we could stay at the county parks or the fairgrounds. Some of these places are a lot cheaper, and then if you can't find those places, then you go to regular RV parks. But we stayed at the county fairgrounds there in Great Falls, Montana. Really nice place, really loved it and stuff. But then come August, September, they got to have their fair. So they kick everybody out, and they move you to a place that doesn't have all the services. By services, I mean sewer, water, and electric. So if they don't have all the services, something is missing, so you're going to have to make do. And one of the things that was missing where they moved us to was no sewer. Of course, my brilliance outdid me that time because I measured the distance to where the sewer was to where my RV park was 80 feet. So I went and bought 80 feet of sewer hose from RV.
Probably not going to flow real good.
Well, I forgot about gravity. Gravity does not do good on a flat ground, and it was so flat that I feel. Oh my goodness! You should have seen the. Oh my God! It was sad. Clean this stuff up. I had so. I finally got all this cleaned up and got all my hose collected and stuff. Oh, I said never do that again.
Yeah.
Well, it just so happens because I did that when I did go to an RV park. I was sitting there. And a couple shows up with an RV, and her husband had passed away a few months back, and she had a boyfriend with her. And he'd never driven an RV, so she was driving it. He didn't know anything about the RV. So she pulled in and found out that she was missing stuff for her RV. She didn't have any sewer hose. Well, they just so happens to have some extra.
You had some extra, yeah.
I got tons of extra. So I gave her some sewer hose. I showed her how to connect the hose, the water hoses, the power, how to get everything to work. And then she says, well, when that stuff, well, and then I showed her how to read the control panels, the circuits, and the fuses and stuff. And the thing happens that everywhere you go, somebody will always help you if you ask for help. You don't have a tool, or you don't know what to do, ask somebody. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of people that live in RV parks. The folks there where we're at right now, we've adopted some grandkids because they've always been helpful to us since we've been there, since they moved. And then, of course, there's several people that we got to know, and it's really, really a friendly neighborhood, especially if you're a long-term staying. And if you don't stay that long, that's okay, because you'll probably run into them in some other park somewhere along the line, because that does happen. You go from here to another state sometimes. We went to to Moon River RV Park in Mojave Valley, Arizona. And we had gone to Needles, California before, because we went and stayed in Parker, Arizona a few years before that. So we got to know people from Parker, and then when we went to Needles, we met people. Well, we went to Mojave Valley, guess what? We run into some of the people from Parker and Needles at the park. And so they were still doing the same thing. And that's what I'm saying. This is the beauty about RV life, is really an enjoyable way of, one, getting to meet people, two, getting to know the area before you get to somewhere, and three, they refer you to places you can go and pull over and get some good deals or good places to park, and I really have enjoyed, my wife, we really have enjoyed it the whole time. And so if you ever decide to do it, and then there's something else. I'm also submit my observations and photographs to IRV too, which is a website to show you about RV park and comments and opinions and stuff. Well, I put photos of the park and tell you what's fun, what I've seen, and I include it in there so people can find out before they get there.
Oh, nice.
And then that's, once again, a heads up of where you're going. And the reason I like it more than anything else is because it sure eliminates me carrying suitcases up and down stairs. And always forget, you go up to the third floor with your suitcase, and then forgot the most important thing is still in the car, go all the way back, all that just to stay one night someplace.
Yeah.
That's the big advantage is you don't pay hotel rooms, you just pull over somewhere, take a nap, get up, and keep moving. And that, I think, is the other thing I enjoy most. And then you always follow. Some people ask you, well, we're going to such and such park. Well, we'll follow you. And you do. You go along the trail. It's like a wagon train sometimes. And so we were thinking about, we had thought about I'm planning on going to the International in Vancouver, British Columbia next year. And we had thought about possibility of going to Alaska afterwards. Well, we decided not to do that because of the expense. But had we thought about doing it, we would have had fun because we'd follow everybody from Alaska back home.
Yeah.
Because we'd have this caravan, see? And there's always a caravan somebody. Asking somebody where you're going, they'll tell you, going that way, which is the safest route, or which is the best route, or what's a good place to visit, or where's some good photographs. And then you establish some kind of understanding for yourself. Don't drive more than 3 or 4 hours a day. I mean, why wear yourself out? The other thing is, why drive at night? You miss everything.
Yeah.
And dry camping is what you call pulling over on the side of the road and staying there. Well, unless you're in a hurry, what's the purpose of dry camping? Find an RV park and pull over. Stay there a day or two. Pay for full services. Washes your tanks out. Got electric, water, fresh pressure, take a shower and stuff. So it's really advantageous to pull into an RV park. Unless, of course, you go to places like out in Arizona, New Mexico, places like that. You'd be driving down the road in the middle of nowhere and there's an RV park in the middle of the sand dune somewhere. And then there's another one way out there.
And you're like, why are they here?
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere. Well, we don't have to pay for anything. Well, there's nothing out here to pay for. They don't even have shade. Well, yeah, but we don't pay for electric. Well, no, you don't. But, I found it to be more safe and enjoyable to stay in RV parks. I can sleep comfortably knowing somebody's going to sneak up and beat us up or something.
Sarah and I got to experience a little bit of the RV life when we went. Yeah. The first time we went to Alaska, because we rented an RV and just drove around Alaska. We were there in the off season. So the RV parks were open, but most of them didn't have all the services because the ground was still froze. So most of them didn't have water or sewer, but we didn't care because the whole reason we were stopping at the RV parks was so that we could have internet access. Right. And also every single one of the RV parks had a building with showers and laundry. Yeah. And so we would take a shower in a regular size shower and get our laundry caught up and whatnot.
Well, on the highway between between Reno and Las Vegas, you cross the head of Death Valley, and there's an RV park there. It's also a fireworks factory store there and a couple of restaurants. But that RV park is right next to a rest area. Some people choose the rest area to save on money. When if you pull into the RV park, showers are absolutely phenomenal. You get water, sewer, electric, everything in your RV. And one of the things people don't realize, the reason why we use all that stuff is because it washes your tanks out.
Yeah.
Your sewer, your gray and black water tanks. So when you're traveling, they're clean. And then you build them up or fill them up, and then you find another RV park, clean them all out. Some places have dump sites in the rest areas. You pull in and clean out the dump sites. Not very many of them, but they do advertise on the highway. You see this RV park with a hose coming out from the back of the RV. That's a dump site. See, these things you learn as you go along, And then the other thing is, if you got a GPS system that for RVs, it tells you all the places that have propane, all the RV parks, and which RV parks will give you discounts. And so you see, all this is plugged into GPS nowadays. Man, you go pretty much anywhere you want.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a good life for me. I mean, we thought it was a blast. We went to places I didn't think we'd ever go to. I won't go back to Texas in the middle of summer, I'll tell you that much. Even in Christmas. I thought Arizona was hot. Arizona is hot, but Texas is humid. It is miserable.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But some people like that, like Florida. They like Louisiana, Florida, Texas, because it's humid. Well, good for you. Not me. I'm from Oregon, man. I don't like that humid stuff anymore.
Yeah, I like the dryness more. I mean, in the winter it's humid, but it's also raining, so you don't notice that it's humid. But yeah, I'm same way. So we touched on it earlier. You're coming on 45 years sober.
Yeah.
And basically lived your whole life that way for the majority of your life. What brought that about, and tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's not something that you talk about very easily. Something that we live a life of destruction and self-destruction, self-centeredness, closed-mindedness. Alcohol was a way of life for me back then. It did everything for me that I couldn't do for myself. And I didn't know any other way of doing stuff. And I'm not using that as an excuse. It's the fact with, remember, I didn't speak the language. I didn't understand the language. And when I discovered alcohol, I found that I really didn't care whether I knew it or not. I got along just fine. I just started beating the daylights out of people. Start, getting wild and crazy. And that's fine when you're young and
you start drinking really young.
Oh, yeah, I was 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
Because back then it was a practice, believe it or not. As a field laborer, one of the rewards for being field laborers on Saturdays especially, the foreman would bring in a barrel full of ice with beer and pop and would hand the women and children pop and the mature workers a beer. Or his number one workers. Could be women, too, if they were number one workers. Mom would get a beer. Anyway, it became my goal to get to that point where I get a beer, too. Well, I never got to that point. What I did discover was that when people would drink close to the house, they would get drunk and ask somebody to bring me another beer. Well, it just so happens I could volunteer for that job. And the quarter of the part of beer that was still left in the bottle, well, somebody have to drain it, clean it out, make the bottle. Well, I didn't realize I was putting away that much beer. And next thing I know, I'm just pretty well wasted, And so I didn't do a good job of any of this stuff. I wasn't the best of anything. In fact, that's the reason why I couldn't go back to the Marine Corps initially, is because I had got myself into trouble drinking so much. And I remember one time I had passed out on my arm, and I ended up paralyzing my arm in position. It was my right hand, and they had to I went to the dispensary, and they put medical tongue depressors on my hand and my wrist and taped it together so I could salute. Now, if something would have happened to the president, I couldn't have pulled my pistol out if my life depended, but at least I could salute. And that was because of my escapades. I mean, I could describe other things, but really it was ugly. In my case, it was real ugly. It's very difficult to tell people anything about what I did. All I know is that if you ever want to understand, go to listen to some of these people who are in recovery, and they'll share with you the traumatic experiences to not only themselves but to family later. I mean, I got married and I was still drinking, and I got worse, and I ended up doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And somewhere along the line, I was on a drunk, and I came to, and let's see, I was I came into a bar. I was in a bar in Roseburg somewhere, and then I end up facing a sign that said Salem. It's the capital, 168 miles from here. And I don't know how I got there, and I'm facing this sign. And I close my eyes, and next thing I know, I'm in Jefferson, Oregon. And I'm DTing there for a few weeks. I don't know idea how long. And then I close my eyes, and I end up back in Roseburg at an AA meeting. I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. But something brought me here. Brought me from where I was to drop me in AA. And whatever it was big enough for me to believe it was something bigger than me, because I would never have thought of it. And a few weeks after being here, I had to have a medical exam because of my work as an engineer. And they found out that I was a borderline wet brain. I had drank myself to the point where I had one more or two drinks left before I would go into an alcoholic coma. Permanently. I didn't know that either. But because of all this, I stayed. First, because I didn't understand. Second, because I did understand. First, because I didn't know what else to do. And second, because then I knew what I wanted to do. And considering the fact I didn't know what to do, and this thing was actually telling me what to do, how to do it, then, gee, what a better way than follow directions. I mean, well, this thing reminds me of the Marine Corps, the little yellow footprints. When you get off the bus, get on the footprints and don't move, don't say anything, and just follow directions. I could do that. So this is what I discovered in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. They give you directions, suggestions, and instructions. Now, you don't have to follow. You don't have to pay attention. If your way is the right way, they say, there's the highway. Well, I've never been a smart person. There's a saying in AA that says, you're never too stupid to get the program, but you might be too smart. Trust me, I never suffered from smart. And because of that, I listened. I followed. And I have listened and I continue to follow because this works for me. It won't work for everybody. Not everybody who drinks has a problem. Not everybody who drinks I wouldn't know. All I can say is our definition in the program is an alcoholic is one who cannot guarantee their behavior after the first drink. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen if I take a drink. But I do guarantee it's not going to be pretty. I can tell you that much. And I've been doing this long enough to know I'm going to keep doing it. And this is the reason why I live the life I live today. I discovered compassion, courage, peace, empathy, caring, service, honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, all the things I never knew were important. I had been around it, I had heard about it, but I really didn't understand it. It's a way of life. It's a life that requires effort, consistency, and persistence. It's practice. We say practice, practice, practice. Doesn't make perfect. What it does is make permanent.
Yeah.
It becomes a natural way of life. Today it is natural for me to live sober because I've been taught and I've been shown. And that's what I do today. And I carry a message. I help others. Not everybody's going to pick it up. Not everybody's going to accept it. But then my job is to carry the message. God's in charge of the results. They learn that the hard way. There's some beautiful, great people out there that end up dead because of what they do. I mean, this happens. But how many are going to give up their lives so that others become willing to live? Well, that's the question that I have to ask myself. I'm doing what I do because I was taught to do it. But more importantly, because I have to do it. It's my debt. It's my... I've been driven by debt ever since I can remember. I've been driven by debt. Mom told me about my debt. I have this debt. And I'll gladly carry it. because when I see you, I see my granddaughters, great-grandchildren, and Lord knows you've never seen me drink. You've heard about it, but you've never seen me partake. You'd understand if you ever saw. I tell people, if you want to know what I look like when I drink, go to the nearest bar about 10, 11 o'clock at night and look at the floor, and the sloppiest, ugliest drunk you see on the floor, that's me. You wanna wish that guy I love you, give him a hug while he's throwing up and throwing down? Go ahead. But remember, this is what I remember. That's why it keeps me moving. Yeah, I don't need anything more than to acknowledge myself as to what I am, who I am, and why I live the way I live. I live a life that's worth living. I think I heard somebody quote, I try to live my life in such a way that the neighbors have something good to gossip about. And that's basically how I live.
Yeah. Well, I know like I've said before, I grew up in it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, and parts of it were good and some parts of it were, we didn't understand or whatnot. But the first good thing I remember about growing up in it was we used to go to like a Sunday morning meeting, and it was in a restaurant, and we never ate out. We never, like, I remember when I was a kid, I tell people when I was a kid that we went to McDonald's on our birthday.
Yeah.
As a reward for our birthday. Like that was one of our birthday presents, is we got to pick someplace to go eat out. And but sometimes we would get to eat out at that Sunday morning breakfast.
Yeah.
So I always looked forward to that.
Yeah.
Plus there was other little kids playing there was like a side room where the kids were left, and we all got to kind of play together. But I remember that part of it. The other part that really stands in my mind is it was always a huge community. Like we were always invited somewhere for a potluck here, a potluck there, or if something was going on, we had these people that to us as kids, they were all strangers, but there was always people helping us.
Yeah.
If we were moving, there was people coming to help us move. If everything seemed like it was always a community thing. Like there was always other people involved. And I remember that growing up, and I think I'd always thought that was kind of cool.
We always had a fun time with the fellowship, because we had the ladies got pregnant. We call them the AA babies, and I became we became familiar with who was having babies and who would not. And we got more AA babies, know what to do with. In fact, I actually became a godfather to some of them, because they invited me to do this, to do that, and I would go out But that's basically the whole thing. The whole community was part of learning and growing together. And you guys were fortunate that you were surrounded by so many people. A lot of folks today, their children are all grown up and they learn about sobriety. Well, they have to live all the things. But in our case, I tell people we were real fortunate that I was able to discover, or was brought into this long before you guys knew what was taking place. So you discovered the program was part of a thing that they did all the time. And no matter where we went, they had to hear this AA thing. AA, what in the world is? I don't know, but they got cookies, they got cake, man. They got potlucks. Who cares what it is? And I remember going to a potluck at I forget where, some park somewhere, and you guys were fighting over chickens, fried chicken. And this kid comes up to you and says, you have a leg, you have a wing. Now close your eyes and eat it like you got the wing and you got the legs. Who the hell was that kid? He said, I don't know, man, but must be one of them heirs, man. But it was those kind of things that really had added to our life, too, That's really what has helped us go through the grief, the pain that we've gone through. First, it was your mom. Challenging, difficult, overwhelming. If it wasn't for the fellowship, once again, I wouldn't have been able to walk through it with you guys. Help me through that. When your brother passed on, same thing. I was overwhelmed. overwhelmed by everything I can say. But because of you and your wife, Sarah, and the rest of the family, but also because of the fellowship, they held on to me like they knew, And because of that, I was able to hold on to a friend of mine when he lost his daughter. Another one lost his son. One lost his whole family in a car accident. I mean, we were because of these things. This is what has given us the strength to hold on to each other. I got a friend that her 2 daughters were attending college, OSU, and had accident hit them, and one of them passed on. The other one, lost part of her brain, and there's so many things that are taking place out here that if I would have been out there drinking, I would have missed all this. I wouldn't have been able to be there for people who need people. That's one of the things that's the biggest plus of all, is that it doesn't make me anything more except available. I've shared this with you and your brother. You remember telling you guys, even if you need something, talk to somebody. I'm right here. If you ever need to talk to someone about something. I may not have answers or solutions, but at least you got somebody to sound off stuff with. Yeah. Because basically that's all we need, someone to dump the stuff with and then go home. Say, okay, I threw all my marbles out there, they're gone, I go home and feel better. Well, you don't get that option very often. You don't get very many people like that in this world.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest blessings of all, is being that source. So if somebody needs someone to talk to, I'm here, And that has helped me more than anything else. And every time somebody asks for help, it's helping me more than I could ever help them. That's always been a big plus. Whatever I do for someone is nothing compared to what I get in return. And all these years, days, months, or whatever, I've lived way past my I've lived past my expiration date more than I think.
Well, I know over the years I've seen you help lots of people. You talk to a lot of people. Some of my friends, even, you've helped them out. And I think that's good. It's always been inspiring to me. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm obviously not a sober guy, but I've been to meetings with you. I've experienced it all, and I think more than anything, I think the most important part of it is the community portion of it. Yeah. And you're right. A lot of times you just need people to talk to. Yeah. That's all therapists are. They're just someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Who give you some advice along the way. And if you're lucky enough to be a member of a community that fills that void, I think that's great. And I'm super proud of you for sticking with it forever.
Yeah.
It's kept you around. And now you've been in long enough that you get invited to be a guest speaker at things. And
I have. I've spoken at several conferences and several activities and stuff. But I always remember that the message I carry is carried by many. All I do is carry it with an accent. I tell people, I spoke at Coeur d'Alene one time, and I started off real funny, I thought. I said, live at the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to get a Mexican to speak at the Aryan Brotherhood headquarters. People said, then you think about it. I said, well, I found out that you guys have this thing and they don't like Mexicans. So what the hell am I doing here? Target? But no, they didn't do that. I spoke there, but I just told them, I was just joking with you, man. I wasn't worried about it. I mean, if it's my time, it's my time, no matter who's saying my name for me, so.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I've spoken at a few tribes, too. Native Americans asked me to speak at a few tribes. And once again, I've been involved with tribal activity from Klamath Falls with the Klamath Indians to the tribe up there in Montana and a tribe in Washington State. It's been a lot more activity than people think, but we don't make a big point of it because it's part of what everybody else does. We're just a lug nut in a big wheel, like I tell people. It's we're all part of the process. We all do what we were taught to do because we love to do it. Not everybody is fortunate to be able to do it. I'm one of the fortunate ones that I get to go and visit with people, talk to. A friend of mine was gave me a ride down to town because I was having a truck repaired at the Ford dealership. And I walk in there, and 3 people. Hey Juan, how you doing? Hey Juan, how are you doing? If you knew everybody over here, why did you ask for a ride? Well, they weren't here when I got here. They weren't here when and then. You know everybody. You just know everybody. And nobody asks you where you know them from. That's the key. It doesn't matter where you know them from. You know someone, that's good. That's period. That's your friend, your partner, somebody you know, period. They don't ask people like me anymore about why you don't drink. Nobody even notices. Mm-hmm. And here's a funny one. Somebody said, did you ever smoke? I smoked for 60 years. Well, when did you give it up? Oh, about 6 years ago.
Because you were dying.
I was dying, and my lungs collapsed every which way to Sunday. I had to roll up and look like I was rolling up a cigarette. My lungs had collapsed so many times, even at Christmas. Oh, I didn't know you smoked. Nobody notices. It's not a big deal. See, that's what I'm saying. So they don't ask you, honestly. Mm-hmm. Because nobody pays attention. Because they're not supposed to. The only time they ask is if they're subconscious of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if there are, all you have to do is not at the moment. Thank you. Period. I don't have to explain why. That's the beauty about the way life today. Is nobody bothers to think about what you want or don't want. They just leave you a couple. What do you want to drink? Oh, an iced tea sounds okay. Cup of coffee sounds great. Mm-hmm. Well, they don't ask you anything else. I've been places where they drink, where they party. Oh yeah, if I got business somewhere, I go. I don't care. I don't have no problem. I go to the casino where there's this guy playing this machine, and he puts his beer down, and he says, "Will you watch my beer?" I says, "Well, where's it going?" He says, "I'm going to the bathroom." I says, "You're kidding, right?" "No. You're going to the bathroom without your beer? What kind of drunk are you?" The guy looked at me like, grabbed his beer and took off. Like I said, I offended the poor guy. I said, well, that surprised me. What kind of drunk leaves your beer behind? If you're going to be, you don't leave your beer anywhere. Poor guy. Oh, man. So you see, I still think like a drunk, man.
Oh, no, it's cool though. And I think being part of the program has made you like a counselor. Really, because over the years I've been able to come to you with things, and I know I'm going to get advice that's not, you're not getting angry in any way or whatever. You just listen to it and give advice as if it wasn't going to affect you either way. You give. And
well,
I think that's
I'll tell you what. Right now, I give suggestions. Everything I give suggestions. Mm-hmm. I can't give advice because that you might take it. That's why I tell people I offer suggestions. Okay, I suggest you try this. If it don't work, well, then try something else. The point I'm saying to you is that we really need sometimes some different perspective on something. It's like all of a sudden I have 3 pens and I don't know which to choose. Well, there's this one here because of this one here from this. What I did is give you back 3 choices. The difference what I told you 1, 2, or 3. Well, you showed up with just 3. I counted them for you. Now you're going to choose. Well, you could have done that before you started, but because somebody presented to you differently, I really didn't do anything. But that's the key to everything that we do today. We offer suggestions based upon our experience. It may or may not work. I tell people, this thing may not work out for you. I remember this one time I met this counselor, alcohol drug counselor, who was going to an AA meeting to listen. We call them spies. No, no, we don't call them that. Anyway, he says, of all the people that work the steps, how many get drunk? I said, none. No, you don't understand. Of all the people that take the steps, how many get drunk? None. Well, how come those people get drunk? Well, you said it yourself. The people that take the steps, none. Do they look like I took the steps? Oh. I said, what is so complicated about the questions? You don't believe the answer, man. I said, that's the thing is people come in with the understanding that they've got something to offer. No, they don't. We all know how to drink. We all know how to screw up our lives royally. But do we know how to live sober? No. Well, then shut up. Well, wait a minute. I got things to say. No, you don't. But you don't understand. Well, that's not a requirement. But nobody likes me. That's definitely not a requirement. I mean, we're here to learn a way of life that's been difficult to accept because we can't accept who and what we are. I had to learn to change to accept that the way I was living my life didn't work. All the answers I had didn't fit the questions. And so I had to be taught. And that's why I always use the example of the little yellow footprints. Another example I use is when you go to college, the first day of college in class, do you get up and tell the professor to sit down because you're ready to teach the class? Well, no. Why don't you do that? Well, I don't know anything. That's exactly how we want you to practice it here, too. And that's basically what I was saying is anyone and everyone you've ever met who's been a member of the fellowship, you know a lot of people know you guys. They've seen you grow up. That's the beauty of everything. A lot of my friends know you guys long before you even knew that you knew them.
Yep.
When you were still, and they've seen you grow up. They've seen you have your family. They talk about your children, your grandchildren. They say, hey, Carlos is a grandfather. Oh, yeah. Wow, man, I've been around too long. I told you, man, we're getting old, man. We're getting real old. And that's the beauty of everything is that, yes, this is something that's more than a gift. Yeah. More than a gift. It's a blessing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of those people have been around since I was a little kid. So, yeah. And once in a while I'll run into someone and you remember me, type of thing. A lot of times I don't, but they'll tell me about it, know, and I think it's cool. And what's funny is there's so much of the stuff that used to drive me crazy when I was a kid that I find myself doing now. And I'm like, damn it, I'm turning into my dad.
Oh my goodness. Don't do that. Don't do that, man.
But yeah, it was a good childhood, and it's been a good life, and I enjoy getting to spend time with you now and just have random conversations.
I really appreciate it too. We haven't had a chance to sit down and visit with each other in a long time, just talk.
Yeah.
It has been a while. Well earned, though. Well earned.
Yeah, life gets busy.
It does. But I'm glad I was able to participate with some of the birthdays, some of the celebrations. I'll keep getting invitations. Eventually, we'll show up to all of them, if not, show the ones I can. And I do take a lot of pictures. I did take a lot of pictures. So
I know. Some of the people at the birthday party this last weekend, they were like, your dad likes to take pictures.
Oh, yeah, I was taking pictures.
I said, eventually he'll post like all of them in one post on Facebook.
Well, no, I'll do a little bit at a time. Otherwise, but yeah. Yeah. That's the one thing I did learn after my mom passed away. I didn't realize I hadn't taken photographs as much. I didn't know how to take photographs. I still don't know, but the point is, why I wanted to take photographs was more important than how to take photographs. I wanted to take photographs as memories, to recall the times when we did have when we were crazy, when we were funny. I remember the one time when Mom my mom was out there pulling weeds in the yard with me in Klamath Falls. I didn't even remember the town. And she says, Juan, I'm pulling all these weeds. How can I tell the difference between the weeds and the flowers? Well, Mom, you pull them all. The ones that come back are weeds. Oh, she said, what? Well, that's how I can tell the weeds, Mom. That's the ones that come back are weeds. The flowers, they died. But I want to take photographs of, of watching you guys, watching the kids. And those are the memories that are important today, and you can look at the photo today and say, I remember that, or I remember that. And the legacy that goes for the next generation is to be able to put it together and save it for them to be able to share something about what took place. So that like times like today, when you're reflecting back on some of the things, you laugh at some of the lessons, how we learned them, how we did it. Some of the crazy escapades that we got into, we had I remember one time we had I don't even know why I did it either. Somebody sold me a raft at Tokati, outside of Tokati. Yeah, at the electric station there. I can't even remember. The guys were having a raffle, and I bought a raft. Now, I don't like the water. Believe it, I never cared for water, okay? But I bought this raft. And I told you, convinced your mom that we're going to go rafting. And your mom apparently can swim. I can't swim. So we got in the Tokati Lake there and put the raft in. I got in and floating and paddling. And all of a sudden, I noticed the raft is getting full of water. And your mom said, we better get out because this thing has got a hole in it. What? And I can't swim. I'm already in a panic. What do you mean it's got a hole in it? It's got a hole in it, and the thing is filling with water. Says, will it make it? I'm already 2 degrees of panic past. And he says, I don't think so. We're going to have to swim. I can't swim, Well, jump out of the water and grab onto the raft while it still had air to say, oh my God, I jumped off the raft and she is laughing because I'm in a sheer panic. I am going 14 shades of white. I'm scared to death. And then she stands up. A foot of water. A foot of water, she stands up. You can stand up and I get out. Oh, man, I felt so stupid. I left that stupid raft there and threw away. I never again bought another raft. She tried to convince me to get it, man, no more, man. Swimming and I was, no. I didn't even know how I passed the Marine Corps because one of the requirements is a swim test, full combat gear. I did pass it. Don't ask me how. Then they put you in full combat gear, take you out to the ocean and throw you off a boat. And you got to swim back. Don't ask me how I did that either. But I never been a water person.
Yeah. I don't remember us ever really going to the water that much either. I remember we went to something, I think maybe it was like a National Guard picnic or something, and it was at the river, and I think somebody was jumping off rocks or something and split their head open or something.
Yeah.
And we waited for an ambulance to come pick somebody up, and then we were out of there.
Yeah.
And I was a little kid, though. I don't remember a lot of that.
That was, we had an incident during the white water raft that we used to have from the Umpqua. And, back in them days, I was still drinking, so we got we had a 9-man raft, 16 people on it. And that thing flipped over, and I went underwater, and I got hit hard with a rock underneath. And they pulled me out of the water, and the nurse, was in pain. And the nurse says, where does it hurt? I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I got hit with this rock. I can't tell you where it hurt. Did it hit you here? Oh, my God. She says, yeah, you found the spot. It took me to the hospital. Oh my God, I was in bad shape. But no, those are the kind of experiences that we will remember. They were good ones.
Yeah.
You know. Well,
We had lots of them. I remember that. Lots of good stuff to remember.
oh yeah.
I remember you doing donkey basketball.
Oh well, yeah. We were trying to raise money for something. We got on these damn long. Oh my God, I almost got killed on that one. But I remember, I don't know if you recall, I don't know, you were too young then. Used to fall timber. Whenever the Forest Service had fires, we'd hang up our pencils and go fight fire. Well, but I had just learned how to use a saw, falling timber and cutting log jams from the creek. So I was getting pretty good at it, learning, I was still a kid. I was still inexperienced with this stuff. And the fires had called us out, so we went out and we were falling timber on fire. And that paid mega bucks to drop trees that were on fire. The problem with it is that because you're so busy looking at trees on fire, you fail to look at trees that aren't going to fall. They just shatter. And, of course, you forget about the widowmakers and all that stuff. Well, I was out there falling timber and stuff, and then this one tree just shattered to no end, just exploded. Basically, when I put the saw, it just came crashing down on top of me. But because it was hollow, I didn't get hurt. But it just scared the bejeebies out of me. And so I think they were paying us $1,100 a week for this stuff. They paid big money. Well, a few weeks later, I'm out there clearing a log jam with Jim Ponton and the saw fell on my leg and started cutting open my leg. And the chain caught the jean, spinned around my leg and cut off the leg jean, the jean. And so it fell on the ground, and I stopped the saw and limping went back to the truck, limping, bleeding all over the place. And Jim came running looking for me, saw blood all over the place, and my pant leg. He thought, oh my God, he's cut off his leg. He's gone. And he's running, looking for me, running towards the truck. And he's huffing and puffing, thinking, oh my God, I thought you lost your leg and you hobbled into safety somewhere. I said, no, but they took me to the hospital and it was okay. But God, I remember that poor Jim's eyeballs were rolling backwards. Man, poor scared him.
Left a pretty good scar, though.
Oh, yeah. Jim did have a scar on that one, yeah.
So the jeans saved you from actually losing your leg.
Yeah, basically, it sucked. It pulled the chain tight and shut it down enough to. I was trying to lift because I was stuck. So I fell into between the two logs and the damn saw fell on top of my leg, and I am trying to lift the. If it hadn't been for the pant leg, it would have, yeah. Poor Jim was thought for sure that, oh, my goodness.
You've gotten lucky a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's at least one thing to be thankful for, right?
Oh, there's a lot of things to be thankful, trust me. A lot of them.
Oh, well, so I was really looking forward to having you on the show today. Just mostly for, I don't know, I guess for my own purposes.
Thank you.
One good thing about technology nowadays is, it's easier to take pictures, against the cell phone. So you get lots more memories. And one thing that I looked forward to about doing this podcast was the fact that I was going to be able to bring people on purely to save the memory forever,
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to get you on so bad. And but I wanted to wait until I had it all figured out. I didn't want it to be a shit show when you get here.
That's okay.
So I'm super glad that you came on. Yeah.
Thank you again. I really appreciate it. I know I appreciate the fact I had spent time with you, even though I never expected to spend time with you with all these cotton balls in front of my face here. But
well, I do my best to make it all disappear, kind of,
okay. Well, thank you again.
just mostly just to keep everybody comfortable and whatnot. But yeah, and it's always fun to sit and just have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Are you recording this thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, gee, a minute. So you're going to make me remember stuff? So this is going to be a test at the end of this, is it?
Oh, no, you don't got to remember nothing.
Good.
No, this is all so that I remember it forever.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to keep you too long, so.
Well, thank you again, mijo.
But thank you for coming, and thank you for opening up about stuff that you're normally pretty quiet about, and
it was the lunch that did it.
Yeah.
Thank you for lunch.
Bribed you into it.
Yeah, thank you, mijo.
But I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you again for everything.
Yeah, I'm sure my listeners will enjoy it, and hopefully they'll get something out of some of your advice and your suggestions.
Suggestions, man. The word suggestion is a lot less heavy than advice.
That's true.
It doesn't threaten anybody. It's like, it is suggested you pull the cord on the parachute. You don't have to. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
There's people like that are going to argue with you.
Well, yeah, there's people that argue about everything.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. But anyways, we've been talking for a while, so I guess we can call it a day. I know there's lots more stories in there, and maybe someday we'll do it again, but for now, I think we'll call it good.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Dad. And for all the listeners,